Hello and welcome to ThePrint. This episode of The Dashboard is brought to you by Hyundai India's Be the Better Guy campaign. Belt up Young India. Wearing seatbelts can save your life. Hyundai just introduced the 4th generation Verna, but without a diesel option. With the Honda City also letting go of the diesel powertrain and Maruti-Suzuki and Skoda-Volkswagen exiting the diesel segment a few years ago, there are no sedans with a diesel engine available in India anymore, if one excludes luxury brands such as the BMW and Mercedes-Benz. In fact, the cheapest diesel sedan in India today is the Mercedes-Benz A220d that costs rupees 50 lakh. And the story is quite similar with the hatchbacks. Barring the Tata Altroz, there are no diesel options on any hatchbacks in India available anymore. A far cry from a decade ago when over half the small car market was diesel. To explain this departure, we are joined by ThePrint's automotive expert and writer Kushan Mitra. Welcome Kushan, welcome to ThePrint, welcome to the Dashboard once again. What explains this departure? Why are there no diesel hatchbacks barring the Altroz, and what's happening in the sedan segment? Why this divorce from diesel?
The death of diesel or divorce from diesel? I mean, it's quite strange. In luxury cars and luxury SUVs, diesel still dominates because over there, petrol is seen as a very expensive fuel. So, say something like the Hyundai Tucson, where 80% of the market, as Tarun Garg, Chief Operating Officer of Hyundai India, says that 80% of sales are diesel. It's a similar story with, say, Mercedes and BMW. Audi doesn't offer diesels anymore, though. The reason for this is the introduction of Stage 2 of the Bharat Stage 6 emission norms that will apply from April 1st, 2023, after this video is broadcast, before this video is broadcast actually. And these norms include something called RDE, which is real driving emissions. And these are measured by measuring the tailpipe emissions of vehicles driving by beside the road. In fact, in Gurugram on Golf Course Road, there are some people doing this test.
Right.
The reason RDE came along, and it began in Europe actually, was after Dieselgate. Now, Dieselgate is a massive scandal a few years ago, where Volkswagen and Volkswagen Group was caught cheating on emissions. Basically, they'd installed some very fancy software on their cars so that when the car went to an emissions testing rig, it knew it was an emissions testing rig and it, emitted less carbon dioxide and, crucially for diesel cars, nitrogen oxides, or NOx as they call it, and it sort of cheated on the test. And while this was going on, the car companies, and not just Volkswagen over here, even companies in India, put out the story of quote unquote clean diesel.
Right.
So, say cars like the Maruti Swift, they were mainly diesels. 10 years ago, everybody wanted diesels because not only was diesel cheaper at the pump in India back then, I mean, I'm talking of the early 2010s, there was a 15 to 20 rupee price difference between petrol and diesel. Only about a lakh of rupees difference between a petrol and diesel if you bought it from when you bought the car.
Right.
And a diesel car was giving you anywhere between 18 to 22 kilometers a litre, whereas a petrol car was giving you maybe 12 to 14. So it's much more efficient, not that much more expensive. So it just, unless you're driving 10 to 20 kilometers a day, buying a diesel just made sense.
Right. Kushan, taking you back to 2015, that's when the Dieselgate Volkswagen emissions scandal was reported. I remember there was a lot of furor in India as well.
Yes.
And I think there was a probe also ordered by the NGT.
Yes.
And you mentioned that the RDE rules were first implemented in Europe, in the Western markets. Why has it taken India more time to come to this? Why is it that India is doing it in 2023?
No, India's actually been very fast, to be very honest. I mean, we went from BS4 straight to BS6. We skipped BS5 because we wanted RDE faster.
Okay.
The plan was we wouldn't get to BS6 until 2023. BS6, first stage of BS6. The probe was ordered by the NGT. This is because Sunita Narayan of the Center of Science and Environment, leading environmental NGO, kept on complaining, and her target was Tata Motors. And she's saying that they're lying. And at the same time, it emerged that other companies also were sort of massaging their emissions, one of them being General Motors, and that on the Tavera. It's not taken long. In fact, the industry was not happy at the speed with which we've moved on emission standards. They said it needs to be more certainty. But when the Supreme Court backed up the NGT, and you and I both live in the NCR, so we see how bad pollution is every winter. And frankly, while we cannot control construction pollution and some other source of pollution, even parali burning for that matter, vehicular pollution is actually easy to control.
Right.
And what RD also means, why was, say, for example, Hyundai selling cars in the first stage of BS6, selling diesel cars, and not from stage 2 unless they're slightly larger diesels, is because right now diesel engines will have to have something called a selective catalytic reactor, which uses very expensive elements, metals. For example, there's a lot of platinum in those catalytic reactors to bring down emissions. It also reduces the efficiency of diesel engines. You won't get the spectacular fuel efficiency you got on older diesel engines.
Kushan, could you let our viewers brief them about, is there a difference? Is there a metric that is out there that can be applied to the current BS6 emissions and what a regular average car would generate after the RDE norms kick in? Is there a metric to measure it?
There are metrics out there. I mean, I don't have anything top of my head, but for example, the amount of nitrous oxides for diesels have come down by almost 80 to 90% from BS4 to BS6. And as RDE kicks in, where actual cars driving on the roads will be measured, the industry is not taking any chances. So some car makers have completely exited diesel, as we said, Maruti-Suzuki, Skoda-Volkswagen. I mean, Toyota has decided not to launch the next generation of the Toyota Innova, which is a high cross, with a diesel engine.
So it's not just the RDE per se, the death of the diesels we have been saying for some time, and Kushan has mentioned it so many times for his print column. It was coming long time.
Yes, it's been coming.
And there are multiple reasons to it.
Yes.
Could you quickly take our viewers?
So firstly, BS6 is because of the emissions, because of the reactors, because of all the controls for emissions, BS6 diesels are not as efficient as diesels were before. Secondly, you're getting new hybrids coming in. Now, hybrids are offering, of course, that wave of torque. Now, when you drive a diesel car, you get that push of power. You're not going very fast necessarily, but you get that wave of torque, which you get a bit on a hybrid and definitely on electric car. So technologies are changing. There's also been a concerted push by the government behind the scenes to say, let's get out of consumer diesels. As I said, in luxury cars where you have larger capacity engines and heavier cars, there is still a preference for diesels. Now, another factor while diesel has gone out of fashion is that the NCR, less so than before, but the NCR is still the largest market for vehicles in India as a region. And part of the NGT rule and the Supreme Court rule was that in the National Capital Region, diesel cars can only be registered for 10 years, whereas a petrol car can be registered for 15. And so, your resale value goes down accordingly. In fact, I know people who run active businesses coming to the NCR to buy luxury BMW diesels, which are 9 years old for, obscenely low prices. And this preference is also changing. In SUVs, because they're bigger, heavier cars, people still prefer diesel. So Hyundai may have exited diesels in hatchbacks and
now in sedans.
But Hyundai SUVs, like something like the Creta, is still 45%. So let us now hear Tarun Garg of Hyundai talk about why diesels aren't so popular. Tarun, until last year, you said that Hyundai was the SUV company. But this sedan is going to change everybody's minds. Why is this sedan going to change the car buyers' minds in India?
So Kushan, yes, I think this is a very, very relevant question. And yes, as you know, Hyundai has been the flag bearer in SUVs. I would say with a lot of humility that we set the ball rolling as far as SUVs are concerned in India, and market has shifted a lot toward SUVs. At the same time, we intrinsically believe that we Indians have always aspired for those sedans, big cars, the comfort of sitting in the seat, or the design, or that look of having arrived in life. I think that comes from sedans, and Hyundai has been a full range manufacturer, and Verna has been a winner product. And now that we have a 6th generation all new Hyundai Verna, we are very confident that the sedan market is going to really take a big uptick.
So you have said you want to double the sales of the Verna with this new generation of the car. It's going to be almost 3,000 cars a month. But the sedan segment has not been growing all that much. Do you think with the features you're offering on this car, such as advanced driver assistance systems, will help in that pickup?
So I'll just like to give a perspective here. One is, yes, we did about 19,000 Verna last calendar year. I think we are expecting to really double the volume or even do more. The initial response has been fabulous. You asked about features. Yes, of course, the design is fabulous. It's a long wheelbase, means you have a great leg room, shoulder room. We have a ADAS level 2, like you mentioned, and I'm very happy to report not only is this the third model from Hyundai, but this is the first mass model. And already we are seeing initial indications that 30% of our sales of the all-new Hyundai Verna could be of ADAS models. Clearly shows that how much Indian customer is really appreciating this. Then not only ADAS, if you see otherwise also 6 airbags have been made mandatory. In fact, it's a standard now for among all trims. In fact, 30 safety features are standard in Hyundai Verna. Of course, connectivity, 65 features of connectivity. This car has everything. It has a switchable infotainment system, which will give you that feeling of technology. The power driving seat is fantastic, and the performance. I think for Verna, performance has been very key, and we have introduced the 1.5 turbo, which is an indigenized engine, and it is receiving some great response from the customer. In fact, 30% of the bookings now are of the turbo variant. So lot of stuff going for Hyundai Verna, which gives us a lot of confidence that things are going to be back on track as far as the sedan segment is concerned.
And one last question, Tarun. You mentioned the turbo. Do you see the petrol turbo being the new replacement for the diesel models? Because you don't have a diesel in this generation of the Verna.
Yeah.
In fact, no manufacturer has a diesel sedan anymore. The cheapest diesel sedan you can get is a 48 lakh rupee German sedan. So there are no mid-high or mid-large or even executive sedans that are diesel anymore. Why is that as well? Why has diesel disappeared from the sedan market?
So, Kushan, this is again a very important question. And over the past 12 to 18 months, what we were seeing was that while SUV customers were lapping up diesel, but the car customers are moving towards petrol, turbo at the high end, and in the entry level petrol and CNG. I think this is a great strategy, we believe. So if you see, as far as Hyundai is concerned, in terms of Aura or the Neos, is petrol and CNG. In terms of the Verna, petrol and turbo. In terms of SUVs, petrol and diesel. So SUV is very strong diesel. In fact, you saw almost 70% is diesel, Alcazar 60% is diesel, Creta 45% is diesel, Venue 20% is diesel. Very clearly. Here, now you said whether turbo could be a replacement for diesel in sedans. My answer is very clear, yes. I'll give you a typical example. There are some very strong diesel markets in India like Punjab, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. And since we have launched this turbo, the response from these markets for the 1.5 turbo has been fabulous. In fact, not only turbo, but they are really wanting the DCT as well. So I think very clearly, customer is also making up his mind that yes, in SUVs, very strong diesel. In sedans, petrol and turbo could be a very good bet.
Thank you so much, Tarun.
Thank you very much.
So coming back to Hyundai Verna, how do you see the departure of probably the last affordable diesel sedan from India, and do you see this phenomenon going up into other segments, like touching the SUV segment, at least the MUVs?
Oh, it's going to happen. Like, as I said, the Toyota Innova doesn't have a diesel option anymore. Maruti-Suzuki's also left the diesel market, as has Skoda-Volkswagen. So, very honestly, it's only Tata and Hyundai that provide diesel engines in SUVs, as does Mahindra. So it's going to change. I mean, some people still want that power. Say something like an off-roader like the Mahindra Thar.
Right.
You'd want that torque. You'd want the torque that the diesel gives you. Maybe you'd want that in a Scorpio as well. But on lighter cars, you won't care. If you're driving inside the city primarily, you care about fuel economy. You don't have diesel hybrids in India. And if you want fuel economy, petrol hybrids such as on the Grand Vitara or the Toyota Hyryder is incredible. I've been driving those around the city recently, and I'm getting fuel economy of 22 to 24 kilometers a liter. Similarly on a Honda City Hybrid, and Honda also doesn't have a diesel engine anymore. Honda is going to be coming out with a new SUV in a few months' time, and that will also only be petrol.
Kushan, you also talk about turbocharged engines. They, in a way, being some sort of a replacement for diesel engines, especially in smaller or mid segments.
Oh yeah.
So how have they panned out? What's the kind of success that they have had? As you mentioned, enthusiasts would still want to go for diesel engines, but have they come out as some sort of an antidote for? Have they been turbocharged?
Turbocharged engines give you again a lot of that torque wave if you can ride the turbo, and the turbo kicks in at different speeds, different engine speeds of different cars. So you know how to, if once you learn how to drive the car, once you learn how to play with the engine, you can get that wave of torque. Enthusiasts will like a turbo also, but as I said, off-roading enthusiasts might want a diesel, and it remains to be seen how the Maruti-Suzuki Jimny will do. The Jimny will not have a diesel engine. It'll have a 1.5 litre small turbocharged, and possibly the 1 litre turbocharged engine that Maruti is going to be launching very soon with the Franks, which I'm driving next week. And you'd want that. The turbocharged engines do give a lot of power. They have a lot of top-end power, turbocharged cars. And also the way turbochargers work by using the exhaust gases of a car to drive induced, turbocharged engines are what are called forced induction engines. So you use the exhaust gases to suck in more air into the engine. The way they work, they also help with fuel economy,
right,
and also with emissions. So turbochargers have become very popular, particularly in luxury cars, because they have diesel turbochargers there. So
Kushan, do you also think that because of this clear preference that the Indian market has now, or especially over the last 5, 7, 8 years for SUVs, smaller SUVs particularly, do you think the reason why diesel is being phased out from small hatchbacks and sedans is because of this transition towards bigger cars? Do you see any kind of correlation between this?
I won't say that. The Verna is a big car. The City is a big car. So they're not small cars. Right. But the preference for SUVs, I find, is very strange. I mean, many people talk about, people want SUVs because of bad road quality, but we have excellent highways.
That's something that's a changing story in India.
Yeah.
I mean, people usually used to quote India's bad roads for a direct reason to go for an SUV, but now roads are changing fast. And how?
Yeah.
So do you see there'll be some sort of a reversal in the market trend back to sedans as you kind of throw the question open in your latest column?
I like the Verna. I like even the Skoda Slavia and the Volkswagen Virtus, and even the facelift of the Honda City, which has ADAS, it has a hybrid engine. It's a very nice car to drive. So there are some nice options in the sedan market. Personally, from a driving point of view, I prefer sedans because, this is something I spoke about when I was speaking about the ICOTY Awards earlier this year, that all of us in the jury have different choices. Some people like sitting lower to the ground. Some people like off-roading and sitting high up on an SUV. I want more sedans, and the roads are nicer now for a sedan. Of course, you have different cars for different needs. I mean, I also have a toddler. So, when you have a toddler, you need the luggage space, you need all of that. So, maybe an SUV for me. But if you have a 2-car garage, if you're a couple or a family with 2 cars, I ideally think 1 car should be a sedan and 1 car should be an SUV. Or 1 car should be a hatchback and 1 car should be an SUV. So you should have a bit of fun, because nothing beats the sedan. I mean, the Verna is similarly priced to the Creta. Same car maker, similar platform, but the Verna handles so much better because it's lower slung, lower center of gravity. It's much more fun. Similarly, even say with the Skoda Slavia and the Skoda Kushaq, same platform, same engine, same gearbox, same everything. But you'd rather have the sedan to drive if I want to drive enthusiastically.
Right. That's coming straight from an auto enthusiast, our auto expert. And Kushan, before we let you go, we always want to know what's next coming up in dashboard columns.
So I will be driving the new Maruti-Suzuki Fronx. I hope to talk to somebody from Maruti and find out why they called the car the Fronx. So we've been joking, calling it the Fronx from the Bronx. But I don't know.
You're looking forward to it because clearly Maruti is one brand in the Indian automobile sector which is looking for some sort of an image change.
So they are. So Maruti has some big launches this year. So the Fronx is first, and the Fronx also will be the reintroduction of Maruti's booster jet small turbocharged engine, which is the 1 liter turbocharged engine. And they're catching up with Tata and Hyundai over here, and Skoda-Volkswagen. The Fronx is a SUV looking car that's based on the Baleno. So it's a sporty SUV in that sense. And of course, you have the Jimny later this year. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll also, in the future column, this weekend's column, be talking about Tarun Mehta and Ather. Tarun Mehta is the co-founder and CEO of Ather Energy, which is one of India's leading EV two-wheeler makers. And he says in this story, I'll say that he believes the Indian two-wheeler EV ecosystem is now the most developed and the best in the world. So do read that story as well.
That's all coming up in the print dashboard. Well, we leave it at that. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Kushan.
Thank you, Anurag.